So, good morning, everyone. Louis Politics. I'm Louis Politics. I'm the chair of item artist for last 3 hours. In the afternoon, we will go through this next coming. And I welcome you all for joining us on the ICA job. We decided to visit because it's sustainability visit the center. And when we go on our tour, we will see the exhibit that they built to demonstrate this. And if you go, you will check it out of the windows, you can see the solar item that can use solar energy to create energy. And I hope you have an interesting day. And I would like to invite Nicholas Kramer, who is the member of our board, to host the presentation. So, Nicholas.
Thank you, Doris. And yes, it's my pleasure to feature this morning first session of this IC race. And we are, as you know, the title of this the topic of this session is embracing both breakthroughs and challenges in digital transformation of museum. I propose that we have all the presentation, and then we can open the discussion. So first, I would like to invite Jerry and Pascal from Veterinary National Level Division of the National Region of the Philippines. Close Kids Law.
Good morning, everyone. So I'm JD, and I'll be presenting about the digitization of the Philippine National Herbarium, the future of cyber taxonomy in the Philippines. So my outline of the presentation, this will be an introduction about the PNH, Project Discover, which is the term that we coined to establish and scale the project, and digitization workflow in the Philippine National Herbarium, some results and challenges that we encountered along the way. So just to give you an overview on where the National Museum of the Philippines is, it's located in Manila, and we houses like 3 big buildings that cover anthropology, natural history, and also finance. The Philippine National Herbarium is part of the Natural History Museum. It houses almost 200,000 collections of botanical specimens from lower forms to higher forms of plants. We are the largest repository in terms of number of collections in the Philippines, and we cater to local and international researchers. And of course, we use our collections to build exhibits and also for public programs in the museum. For the registered herbarium in the Philippines, we have quite really a lot. The PNH is the largest repository, but we have like almost 24 registered herbaria in our country. Mostly 95% are consist of university herbaria that have a small amount of collections. And of course, there have been problems in terms of taxonomic discovery in the Philippines as well. We have almost like 14,000 to 15,000 collections, and the museum is very high, but the number of discovery has been hampered due to a lot of things in terms of research funding and also accessibility of the collections, regional and also international. And one of the key things that we like to address is to have a modernized information management system in the largest herbaria in the country, so that we can have a paved way in terms of accessibility, also in digitization for other small herbaria in the country. So, of course, we know that E-types, this is the workshop that held in California Academy of Science 2002, and we coined the term E-types to establish digital images of type collections that could be accessible worldwide for efficiency in terms of economic discoveries. This is not actually the first time that the National Museum actually attempted to digitize this collection. It started in 2001, where in the database collection, small amount of collection when we started using MS-DOS, but it took a lot of time due to funding constraints, priorities and all. In 2013, there is this time that the museum acquired several equipment for the legalization or bar, but not until last year where the fund for Project Discover has been finalized. This is to establish a large-scale utilization of the entire bar collections in the nationals. So Project Discover, if you're curious about it, it's the title is like utilization of scientific collection for virtual education and research. We partnered with ICT section of the NOV to establish this project and prioritize the botanical collections of the PNH. The main objective of this research is to present the developed workflow and digitization system setups that we've established and customized in the PNH to compare the efficiency of the setups and to identify the challenges in the digitization. All right, for the methodology, yeah, we have the digitization workflow, and we implemented the workflow and gathered the data from 72 days from this commencement, from the commencement of the digitization from January to April, and we analyzed this information on which one actually best be used in terms of volume and other factors in digitization. So we come up with like two setups. The first one, we use the magnetic object scan, and perhaps some of you have used it before already. And we customize our setup on the next one, which we call the digital or the digitization conveyor, where multiple specimens could be digitized all at the same time. And it could actually do like up to 200 to 800 in a day in terms of digitization. So the prioritization, we're actually given the specimens that are oldest, 100 years old, 50 years old collections, and also, of course, the type specimen, and those that have already been database beforehand. To sum up and have the summary of the workflow, so we have like this chart that started with the pre-curation activities of the specimen going into the system integration and publication. We'll go about it one at a time. So prioritization, we've established those that are top priority and the last one. So again, we've prioritized top priority to the oldest one, which in the Philippines we know this like part of the important cultural property in terms of collection, and the type specimens, and also the lower forms in terms of volume, because the larger or the undispersed quite are a larger number in terms of volume. Our mounting, cleaning, and providing barcodes into the specimen were also checked and done, and physical inventory of the specimen was conducted. Next, for the two setups, this is the specification of the equipment that we've used. So the marketing object stand have until 1600 PPI for the cryptograms, which is being managed by the staff members. The conveyor belt for the higher plans is from we use the Canon EOS R5, the laser copy stand, customized really to come up simultaneous digitizing of the collection. For the processing of collection, so this is the image file size and resolution for each of the collections that we had for the PNH. And it includes like two scanners and three digitization cameras with varying from 5,000 to 9,000. As a part of the museum, it's very difficult to have a digitization activity just solely for the environment, but for the entire National Museum collections. That also includes ethnographic and also other collections. So we some are, I read that some and most are actually using Specify or other database management system, but we use the museum systems, which enable us to have the good database management setup for the entire National Museum. And there are the S3 cloud storage system, which act as a backup and physical storage for our database and collections. Next, for the metadata, we formatted this information into diary report format so that it will be also available for submission to debate if eventually we're done with the utilization of the metadata. Okay, so these are examples, and we are actually publishing it first in e-museums, in the gallery systems again, for it to be accessible to the public locally and also worldwide. So from the 200,000 collections that we had actually 165,000 digitized specimens as of October 2025. So this is quite a lot of number for 1 year digitization project, but we're still not done, and we're working really towards collecting all the metadata. Okay. So the plan is to have the GP have all this metadata to be widely available to universal audience. In comparison of efficiency for our scanners, so I'm presenting like a graph, and the result of that is that there is a statistical difference between the scanners that we use actually. So these result mainly because of the external factors such as the routine or regularly changing of manpower in each of the scanners that we use in our digitalization. This one is the digital compare cameras. We know statistical difference if we're going to have it around in ANOVA, which you can see in the box plot that the cameras have varying outputs in terms of efficiency, but when you're going to total it together, they're very much efficient in terms of large quantity output. So to sum up, the digital cameras are actually the best option if we're going to maximize the option for large-scale digitization, which can be used by large environment. And the scanner 1 and 2 are most reliable in terms of consistency for medium to small size environment collection. For cyber taxonomy in the Philippines, moving forward, we'd like, of course, to have this information be available to debate and other global biodiversity information for accessibility and to establish global meta-environment. And also, we are open to collaboration with experts and specialists in deep machine learning in using the images to use as AI-assisted identification in our collection. And of course, to engage the community in having the distribution of these collections and to add information in their biogeography. And of course, accessibility will actually eliminate taxonomic impediment in terms of discovery of new species that we have. So before I end, just to leave this, plant diversities will understood, documented, and recognized regardless of our concerns and issues or restrictions. I think this is a good way in how we can be more accessible to larger audiences locally. So yeah, acknowledgements were made from the ICOM Philippines for the grant. In my participation here, of course, the National Museum and to HDatacom for actually helping us and assist us in the digitization project. Shukran. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. It's very interesting and very useful study for the. There are many action assignment. So now please welcome Mrs. Tuti from PM for the impact of digitalization in museum.
Thank you very much, colleagues. I thank Natis for having me today to talk about digitalization in museums. So JD was talking about a phenomena that is very close to your field, which is digitalization. I will take it up a bit further if we get the slides.
We have to wait. It has to be done manually.
Okay. I'll start talking because I know time is short. My purpose here is to give you a few insights on the more meta level of how digitalization and digitalization impact museums. This is based on my PhD study at the Helsinki University. And I unfortunately will have more questions to you than answers, but I think this is part of the process and the whole strategic insight that goes into how your museums are preparing for the future and becoming more and more relevant also to wider communities in your field. So I will present some of the concepts and then some getaways on best practice, which I hope will be useful for you. We all know that the world is changing. The whole overarching theme in this Congress has been preparedness for the future and taking into account the need for change. But for museums, change is actually a vector of either becoming more relevant or staying and maintaining the relevance for your publics. Some of the main concepts, digitalization is an overarching term. I am most interested in everything that goes from organizational structure to strategy to the very specific issues that come up when you digitize or when you change the way you work with your publics, with your exhibition space, or even with different parts of your organization, different teams working together and so forth. The main issue I'm working with is governance. And here we see that digitalization is about change management. It's about working with your teams, with people that have very different perspectives, very different professional backgrounds, learning to look at the projects in a wider context. And this is not always very easy, but it's a very interesting challenge for you because it actually comes from the position of self-reflection. And that means that when you're looking at governance issues, you will benefit from talking to your peer organizations and bringing in some information on how this and that museum did it in a different context. What can we learn from that? So the new skills and working methods that you need will guide your teams towards more efficient work, but innovation takes time and it takes resources. These are some of the insights that I have received in the interviews that I've taken. And one of the points is really, well, how do you go towards the future with the same team of professionals? How do you open up, bring awareness to your organization to lead them forward? When working with digital elements, data is key. We often talk about data being like the new currency of the future. In museums, we're very, very used to working with data. We have lots of protocols and guidelines on how to work with data. One of the major questions is the intellectual property questions, and these issues need to be taken in as a continuous work over different professional lines. For the time being, digitalization projects, unfortunately, seem to be quite sporadic. So there are lots of projects that are on the way, but the overall design of what actually takes place in museums, because we are in a transitional period, seems that not everybody knows what projects took place and why are we actually doing this. So there are insights on what you can do so that you can actually be more efficient with the whole of your projects. Here you see some of the defining elements of what type of projects we have had in the Nordic national museums. Most of the projects start off with one-off kind of event. But then when teams get used to these aspects, they try to get continuity. So from the setting of designing of exhibitions, for example, right now, some of the museums are working on continuous interaction with different and diverse publics from before they enter the museum to when they have the museum experience, and then when they go back to their homes, how can they actually make use of what they have learned in the museum space, and how can you integrate the physical with the virtual? So this will be one of the main questions in the future. We will have a lot of data accessible, but what will we do with it? What will we do with all the digitized items? How can that be used in the most beneficial way? And how can we have an ongoing dialogue and engage different publics? Also global publics, because of course the digital space will not be only catered to your local communities and local entities. One other issue that has been interesting to me is that the role of museum professionals is changing. So we see that there is this role of co-creation. We've heard a lot of examples of this during this week, where the authoritarian voice of the museum professional is giving space to a more a kind of an approach of engagement and of inviting also other perspectives into this work. This is not always easy because we are talking about a professional field with its own theory, its own history, its own values and references. And this means, again, that peer learning is one kind of, it's going to smooth the bumps on the way, because when you see how other professionals are doing this, it will actually give you ideas and also make sure that you're addressing the issues that are, from your professional background, very relevant for you. So what are the key benefits that my research has found out? It's, for one, it's that this is a very beneficial process also for museum professionals. We can have new roles, new engaging roles. There is more scalability. So if you manage to go through with digital project, digitalization project portfolio, you can actually then scale that up to maybe international contacts and also doing exhibition or research work with your peers around the globe. One other issue is the financing. So for most of the Nordic museums, there's been a lot of non-permanent financing for both digitization and digitalization projects. This could be an issue because the longevity of projects is at stake, and also the skills factor, how much we use external know-how and how much we actually put resources in scaling up the knowledge base in your own organization. Those are strategic questions to which a digitalization strategy should actually bring answers. There is no divide between the digital and the virtual. It is part of the same change process that museums are dealing with. And I would be very welcoming for your questions or some examples from your field in the discussion that will follow. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very, very much for this very inspiring and useful step back on our practices. So now, welcome to Nabi Abdul Rahman from International Islamic University in Malaysia for bringing papers to life, digital storytelling and interactive technologies in Malaysian museums.
Thank you so much.
Wait a sec.
Wait
a sec. Sorry, wait a sec. Wait a sec. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, thank you. All right, so basically today I'll be talking about the, as mentioned, bridging heritage to life, digital storytelling, and interactive technologies for museum in Malaysia. So some of you have visited Malaysia before, and what we're talking, me and also my co-authors, we are looking at the whether the Malaysian museums are ready for the effective digital technology. And this happened basically before the COVID hit around the world, whether we are prepared or not for the digital technology. All right, so my content of presentation will be maybe some introductions about Malaysia museums and also the case studies. That we are focusing on the 3 museums in Malaysia, based on the selected museum from the federal museums and the private as well as the state museums. So we have several museums, and there are in total 200 something, 200 to 286 of museum in Malaysia, 56 under the Department of Museum Malaysia. And there are some findings that will be discussed, some observations from the digital technology used in this museum, and conclusion. And I think as an introduction, I just want to give you some overview. I think all of you are from the museum field, and museum is not only the caretaker of the collections. And the most importantly, I think, is how we bring our content to our audience or to the visitors. And it's very important to ensure that the content is effective for the users And of course, some of the museum has a very typical, a very traditional way of presentation, but some of them are very, advanced in the sense that they use all the technology in the presentation of display. All right, as mentioned, I think in 2020 is when COVID hit. There's an issue, especially in Malaysia, that we are talking about whether the museum in Malaysia are ready to ensure that the visitors are accessible, because 70% we are dropped in terms of the visitor engagements or visit numbers of visitors that visit our museums. So this is being reported in the news in Malaysia. And of course, we're talking by the media at that time, when that will become the main concern when we are moving. I would say that a rapid movements in a sense, not only for the museum industry, but also in other industry in Malaysia. So this is mentions the total number of museums that been registered under the Department of Museum Malaysia. So we have in total 236, whereby we have several types of museum, which is the federal museum, institutional museum, state museum, personal museum, as well as the private museum. I think this is may apply to other countries as well. But the number is actually more than this, but this is the one that registered with the authority. So this is basically my main case study. There are three main case study that will focus on the way how they conduct the display and exhibit, which is the one museum located in Kuala Lumpur, and then we have the Federal Museum, which is the National Museum of Malaysia, also located in Kuala Lumpur. Another one is the Borneo Culture Museum in Sarawak, which is in the Borneo area. So the selections of the category, basically we are focusing on the museum whether they have the technology and also in the exhibit and display. And we're talking about looking at the managements of different agencies, the aspect of the historical, economic, and also the culture, and educates the museum that are actively digitizing their collections. So some of the museums, they are digitized the collection, but some they are still in progress of making it digital. So based on the observations, I would say that these three museums play an important role because they are representing in the different types of museum in terms of financial. When you're talking about the technology, digital, the most important thing that you have to ensure that you have a very sustain in terms of the financial, because lots of money need to be invested in order for you to ensure that you will keep update the information and all the digital use in the museum. So this is some of the observation when looking at we went to this museum. Of course, we look at the whether they are ready and what kind of the display that they use in the museums. And of course, the digital display museum, this is in the museum or the Federal Museum in Malaysia, where they are using the some the gaming and also digitals or AR things, and they also have the apps when they for the visitors to explore for them using the apps in mobile apps. And this is the observation that we look at the money museums in Malaysia. This is a private museum. So when you look at this, I think this is the most educations narrative, whereby each of the showcase they have interactions, and not only for the adults, also for the children. We have a specific children gallery, whereby the children are experiencing how to withdraw money and all this technology involved. So it's very interesting. If you have time, perhaps you can go and visit this museum. And it's very educational because I would say that we're talking about money museum, it's about financial, it's about economics. So they're trying to make it in a simplest way for us to understand in terms of the currency and all the exhibit. So there are some videos, I think, showing on how the talking about, I think the third series river of point that display currency through the projection mapping. So they have several different types of display. All right, so this is another one, which is the video and audio presentation. So the audience or the visitors can explore themselves And it's very interesting that we have to, there are some education, with information given. All right, this is another samples or another case study that's very interesting. Is I would say that 90% of the display is using immersive and also digital technology. And one day it's not enough for you to explore because I've been there and I thought I can, finish my visit because each of the showcase has a very interesting content and the way how they display, the way how they interact with the audience is much, pretty much. Time is very All right, so basically this is a very brief finding that we found that this is the three observations and the finding from our case study. There are some using the AR, and then we're talking about the gaming, the motion sensor, and immersive storytelling. That will be very important. I think that will be more effective for the audience. And as mentioned, the key strength for each museum, they have various, which is the Heritage Authority, because that's for the federal museum, and then educational narrative, as mentioned, for the Money Museum, and also the strong integration of the culture in the bonding museum. So we also conduct some semi-structured interview with the personnel in museum because we want to see how challenges that they are facing, especially with the divisions like collection unit, exhibition unit, and also IP unit. Because this is the main division that I think involved directly in the preparations of the presentations or the display in the museum. So this is basically the content analysis that we're using in order for us to interpret the data for the interview. And we found that we are looking at the interactive digital content in major museum. And of course, most of the respondent is talking about, agree that we have to provide the interactive digital content for the visitors. And another content analysis, we're talking about accessibility, the online, whether it's available for the website. I think during the COVID, then only we established the virtual museum. Before that, we didn't have a virtual museum and museum in Asia. So because we want to, they are working hard, I think, all the museums, people working very hard to establish, because I'm looking from the academic perspective. So I'm sure that the museum personnel is working hard to ensure that because the duration is very long, so we have to do something to ensure that we can access to the public. So this is some of the research discussion. Of course, we're looking at the ICT infrastructure. I think talking about the ICT is very crucial when we are established, or especially we are talking about the digital content. So this is the challenges that we are facing. So in conclusion, I would say that that's very important for us to ensure that what we display in the museum should be effective for the user. So the contents are not only keep the memory, but somehow is give an educational information for the audience. So I would say that especially in this generation, so the new era, we are looking for a new technology, and of course we are moving forward in Malaysian Museum, I believe. But there are some limitations that we are facing, especially in terms of financial. We're talking about the professional, the skills as well, and maintenance. That's the most important thing. So that's I think the most challenging when we are talking about the immersive or about digital content. So I think that's all from me. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for this very interesting analysis of the subject from the Malaysian Museum. Now, please welcome to Charlie. For the I know the first name for each RFU dialogue.
Hello, my name is Charlie Guo. I'm associated curator and exhibition coordinator for National Taiwan Museum. Today, I would like to share a question that often comes to my mind. It's XR, the new diorama. It's about how museums move from physical display to digital work, and how both can make us feel the feeling of being there. Let's start with diorama, one of the most powerful tools of immersion in natural history museums. A diorama is not just a display. It is a creative illusion combining art, science, and technology. Every detail from the background painting, lighting, and the animal posture, even to a small plate, is designed to make to make visitors feel like they are there. In in the early days, the aroma were created by artists, scientists, and taxonomists. Let's take the making of the Lion Group diorama at the American Museum of Natural History as an example. Before constructing a diorama, lots of research was involved. Artists and scientists studied the habitat, animal behaviors, and the landscapes. These early studies provided the foundation for creating a believable scene. Then comes the composition, the careful selection of the best moments in nature to recreate. The team chose the narrative, the angle, and the relationship between animals and the landscape. Back to the museum, artists create depths of the landscapes using precise perspective. Lighting designers then enhance the illusion by shaping natural light inside a static space. These layers made the themes feel alive. Sorry that I do not find the construction photos of the line, so I use similar photos instead. And then taxonomists studied muscle structure, posture, and the movement to create lifelike specimens. Finally, the specimens were mounted and positioned inside the showcase. Every curve, every shadow, and even every viewing angle explained. What visitors see is the result of countless decisions. Standing in front of a diorama, you feel quiet, almost as if you are in the wild, watching life at a certain moment. The feeling of being there is the immersive power of diorama. As techniques improved, diorama became larger and more immersive. Some museums created monumental halls that surrounded visitors with realistic landscapes. You feel you are almost like stepping into an indoor zoo. This idea eventually expanded into walking dioramas, where visitors move through large, reconstructed scenes. Walking into the diorama, visitors become part of the scene. This is a big step forward toward immersive experience. But then came a turning point. Films and moving images introduced a world that nature was in motion. People became used to seeing animals run, oceans move, and the forest sway. Next to this moving reality, diorama began to feel still, almost frozen. Emotion did not disappear; it simply shifted toward media that moved. Being there has always moved audience. The dream never changed, but the tool did. Background pages became pixels and light. Carefully arranged statements became motion, sound, and interaction. But the goal remains the same: to help people enjoy themselves and connect with the nature and the knowledge through the feeling of being there. Only now, immersion is shaped by data, code, and the imagination. Now we talk about AR, MR, and VR, together known as XR. AR adds layers to reality. MR blends virtual and physical, and the VR brings you completely with a new world. It is also a powerful immersive media for museum exhibitions nowadays. At first, it was stationary. Visitors stood or sat in one spot while the virtual world surrounded them. In the deep into the mind from Taiwan Gold Museum, visitors explore dark tunnels through VR, feeling the echoes underground, although they never move. It recreates spaces much like a diorama, only digital. Then came the breaking through virtual VR. The internal Notre created by a French team and supported by Taiwan's VR technology company. Visitors, visitors work through a full digital uh, visitor works through a digital reconstruction of a cathedral. The mobile headset and the backpack computer enable them to move freely inside the virtual world as well as the reality. Here you can see there are the views a visitor can see in their headset. The white shadows are other visitors in the same space. Visitors follow a guide to walk through the cathedral. They can reach heights and angles that not accessible in real life. When the body can move to where I see, visitors become far more engaged, and the sense of immersion becomes much stronger. And now, interactive VR pushes immersion even further. This is the core of Ocean Exhibit, created by the National Taiwan Museum. It provides a world view from the perspective of a Dao people, one of the indigenous groups in Taiwan. The backpack computer is built directly into the headset, and the hand controllers allow visitors to participate and interact in the VR world.
How to put smart?
In this world, visitors meet a Dao elder in a tropical forest in Orchid Island and start a journey of the flying fish season. Flying fish is not just an important food resource. It is also a symbol closely linked with their creation stories. As flying fish comes with the ocean current in certain times every year. Our people use the flying fish to define their calendar. Using hand controllers, visitors row the boat together with the Dao people as a team in the Pacific Ocean to welcome flying fish. Through the teamwork, they are no longer outsiders. They take a part in this world. Suddenly, a school of flying fish lived across the sky with surprise. At the moment, visitors forget who they are and step into the role of the story offers. After visitors experience VR world, they return to the real exhibition hall and see the museum's objects with new eyes. They start to notice the details, the texture, and even the stories behind the real object. This transition from virtual back to real is where museums reveal their unique values. Visitors don't just come back to reality, they come back with a deeper understanding. So, what roles do museums and the collections play in the new immersive world? I would say it's our smart. We know when something feels real or not. Like traditional diorama, but VR also depends on craftsmanship, and the political words still begin with real things, our collections. With technology, we can turn museums' collections into something larger, clear, and even more accessible than before. AI tools now allow us to create millimeter level models that show details even much more clear we can see in reality. We also work with artists. For example, For example, our botanists can work with the art to produce a generative program for red mangrove forest. They use specimens and data to create this program. So through algorithm, every plant grows uniquely based on real biological rules. This digital forest is rooted in scientific truth. Okay, this generative program shows how traditional craftsmanship and digital creativity can work together. Each time it runs, it generates different things. And here you can see it's the result from two scenes. When VR becomes real enough to make us believe, it also becomes powerful enough to shape what we understand. Education is about storytelling, and the stories often work. They guide visitors into new ways of seeing, new ways of imagine the planet, and even new possibilities for the future. So as VR grows more convincing, museums must think even more deeply. What journeys are we taking visitors on? What kind of words do we share? And what future do we invite them to imagine? Because when a story feels real, its influence is real too. Thank you.
Only and right now, let's welcome Marianne for for blending heritage science and digital innovation at the natural singular food.
So, good morning. My name is Marianne Carcinido. Actually, I'm an architect, but also I'm a museologist. And for the past 7 years, I have been working for a company named Tetragon. The company is a design and construction firm that specializes in cultural projects, particularly in the development of museological and museographic studies, and in the implementation of museum exhibitions. Today, we will talk about one of our ongoing projects. It's not finished yet. It's the Natural History Museum of Crete. It's the largest natural history museum in Greece, and it's located in a very privileged spot. It's right on the coastal front of Heraklion, the biggest city of Crete. It was founded in 1980, and it's operated by the University of Crete. So, as a university museum and a research and educational institution, it's dedicated in studying, preserving, and showcasing the natural heritage of Crete, of the whole Greece, and of the Eastern Mediterranean. The museum's main goals are to preserve and enrich collections and archives related to the natural environment, to conduct scientific research by biodiversity, geodiversity, and ecosystems, to promote environmental education and public awareness, to support academic research and teaching at the university, and also to participate in national and international research and conservation initiatives lately that are related to digital innovation.
Is it working?
No.
Wait.
Yes. Okay, thanks. The museum holds an extensive geological, paleontological, botanical, and zoological collections that highlight the unique biodiversity of Crete and Eastern Mediterranean, as I mentioned before. The total exhibition area covers approximately 3,500 square meters. And for the past 5 years, as we said that the museum is from the 80s, but for the past 5 years, a major development project has been in progress. The progress is the works are carried out in 2 phases, both for funding reasons and also
to ensure that the museum stays open to the public, but like some small rooms of the museum. The first phase, covering the ground and the first level, is over, and now some parts are open to the public. And now we are implementing the second phase that includes levels -1 and +2. Both the previous and current development are implemented by Tetradon. The project also includes the construction of new exhibition spaces, implementation of exhibition content, the creation of digital and interactive media that are all developed with the contemporary museological principles, and the Natural History Museum gave us the opportunity to implement also digital material there. So it's very important to underline the collaborative and the interdisciplinary nature of such project, because creating a museum brings together a wide range of professionals. So in this case, we have biologists, geologists, paleontologists, oceanographers, and on the other side, we have architects, museologists, graphic and interaction designers, many of which are working for the first time together. So this collaboration ensures scientific accuracy, aesthetic coherence, and above all, to make a visitor-centered approach. For us, as museologists, the key challenge is to translate the scientific knowledge that the university professors and the research assistants provide us with, and turning into meaningful visitor experiences. So through clear visual structures, precise storytelling, and interactive media, complex subjects such as biodiversity and evolution can be accessible to the public. About the exhibition layout, the museum extends across 4 levels, and visitors follow a thematic route. Here you can see the specific themes of its room. And talking about the implementation of the museographic study, we have to translate the design into a tangible exhibition. So here you see an example of the 3D and the final implementation with the taxidermied birds. It's the section that talks about the birds of Crete. For every room, we try to combine material exhibits and media components in order to communicate the scientific ideas and create a multi-sensory experience. Here we have a diorama, of course, and it's a diorama about the sandy ecosystem, a desert ecosystem. Visitors will see then a panel with concise small texts and details about every species that appears here. But also we have a touchscreen, so visitors can search more if they are interested in any of these species. For museography, the digitized information plays a central role in shaping both form and content. So we use the digital databases of the museums for species, for habitats and geological formations. And this data inform the design for our projections and for interactive applications. These elements, as we said, enrich our storytelling and the visitor engagement, while also maintaining the authenticity of the material of the museum. The University of Crete, as a major public university with strong research activity, is a leader in digital innovation, and it plays a coordinating role nowadays in a nationwide program for the digitization of Greek natural history collection from all of the museums of the country. So they digitize millions of records and thousands of 3D models that will be all accessible through a unified online portal. I think that the collection has more than 2 million specimens, and registered at 200,000. So us, our team, draws material from this digitized library, and we turn research archives into immersive learning experiences. Here, for us, technology becomes a medium of interpretation. And some examples of the digital tools that we use are touchscreens, are video projections, are mapping projections, holographic projections again, and a combination of them sometimes. So here we have an example of an interactive landscape model. The visitor can navigate through a touchscreen interface and choose thematic layers, different thematic layers, and learn about protected areas on the island of Crete. And when he chooses what he wants to see, he can see it through a projection on the map. It's a large physical map, and on the rest of the area. You can learn about the rivers, about the protected areas, about geological formation. Another example, here was on interface example. Another example is the interactive touchscreens that allow visitors to explore the digital specimens, such as insects, mammals, and birds that we have for this time. These applications simplify the complex scientific databases, and the visitor can see taxonomic, ecological, and behavioral data with images or with videos. This is a video, you can see the back moving around, and in some cases also with sound. This is another example from the birds of Crete. And you can also locate them on the map. And finally, to conclude, from our experience with the Natural History Museum of Crete and from other projects that we have worked in, we observe that digital transformation can truly strengthen the museum when it's used in order to enhance accessibility and visitor engagement. So, the Natural History Museum of Crete, design, construction, and technology converge to create a museum that is shaped by science and interpretation. Thank you very much.
Very nice good production. So now let's Minako Takahashi from National Center for Promotion and Cultural Properties, National Institute for Cultural Heritage, probably in Tokyo. Yes. And okay, in search of the connection, public cultural properties through cooperation.
Wait a second. Okay. Wait a second. Sorry. Wait a second, because we have online participants. Allow me to make sure they can see it. Is shared. Really?
Good afternoon. I'm Minako Takahashi, Chief Creator at the National Center for the Promotion of Cultural Properties, CTCP, and Tokyo National Museum. Today, I will talk about how digital tools can help build more personal connections between visitors and cultural properties, making these objects feel closer and more engaging. And here is a brief overview of today's presentation. Let me start by briefly introducing our organization. Established in 2018 under the National Institute for Cultural Heritage, CPCP works to make cultural properties more accessible and meaningful. In collaboration with museums, schools, and the private sector, we've developed immersive technology-driven approaches using 8K imaging, VR, AR, and more to foster intellectual and emotional engagement with cultural property. We see digital technologies
a museums not as replacements for original works, but as tools that help realize what visitors truly seek: deeper insight, richer enjoyment, and personal connection. When thoughtfully designed, they bring the artwork or object and closer to life experience. The impact of digital technology in museums depends not only on what they offer, but on how thoughtfully and skillfully they are designed and staged. Today, I share some case studies. Sorry. I share some case studies that respond to visitor wishes in a conventional gallery to see what was once unseen, to sense what was once unfelt, and to access different spaces, times, and people. Well-crafted digital experiences are beginning to make these wishes tangible and to redefine the role of museum content. Our 2022 exhibition, Museum of the Future at the Tokyo National Museum, created with Japan Broadcasting Corporation, Canon, and Sharp, welcomed over 150,000 visitors and earned a 97.5% satisfaction rate, reflecting strong public interest in immersive digital exhibitions. In the first gallery, Beyond Time and Space in 8K with NHK, large screen visuals for visitors face to face with a hidden Buddhist icon at Horyuji Temple, and enlarged floating screens immersed them in town of Kyoto 400 years ago, where tiny figures in the original works appeared life-sized. They could access places and times otherwise unreachable. In addition, with CG time language support and interactive 3D models, the experience became inclusive and transformative. The second gallery, through the Four Seasons with Canon, featured high-resolution facsimiles of four national supporting screens. Through projection mapping and ambient sound, visitors were immersed in the painted seasons, experienced the flow of time that was floating within the screen. And in the third gallery, Dreams to Reality with 8K developed with Sharp Corporation brought once impossible encounters to life. Visitors use sport-shaped devices to closely study Buddhist statues from different angles as if to experience a curator's work. T-balls were explored with tools replicating their weight and texture exactly from the original work, offering a tactile, intimate experience with each piece. Museum digital transformation has become a global trend, I believe. In such meaningful approaches, we conducted field research at over 20 museums worldwide with their generous support. What stood out was the most engaging exhibitions made cultural properties feel personally meaningful, sparking dialogue among visitors. These experiences are shaped by carefully structured themes and interactive tactile environments that appeals to the senses and emotions, encouraging deeper participation and shared connection. Here we focus on three key elements that enhance the quality of visitor experience and help transform it into something personally meaningful. I briefly introduce how these elements are reflected in international examples. These examples prioritize visitors' sense of presence and participation through engagement with objects. And at the National Museum of Korea, AI creates historical portraits from visitors' face, while at the National Paris Museums in Taipei, they glide through projected dynamic landscapes. At the National Museum of Taiwan History, life-size figures share their stories directly with the viewer. And these examples invite visitors to take on professional roles from conservation and inspection to archaeological research. At the Hong Kong Museum of Art, they practice restoration. At the National Folk Museum in Korea in Paju, they assist with pest control. And at the National Taiwan Museum, they join simulated excavation. Each offers a rare chance to digitally experience museum work behind the scenes. And these examples offer visitors to a chance to create their own works, selecting objects from personal colors, adding necessary to producing original pieces to display, photograph, or take home. They include mounting and space arrangement activities of the children's gallery of the National Palace Museums in Taipei, as well as portrait making and kimono design experience of the Tokyo National Museum. And these examples use tactile interaction to engage both sight and touch. At the D&A, touching materials reveals artwork made from them with details and locations. At the Tenement Museum in New York, placing shop items on the table triggers projected stories and videos related to them. At the National Museum of Korea, tenant book pages activate digital contents related to an original book work. Each uses interfaces that emulate cultural property itself and offering a more tangible, immersive experience. And at the Hong Kong Paris Museum, participation, creation, and tangibility come together in a calligraphy experience. Visitors use real brushes to write meaningful characters drawn from original works. They selected a seal, watch their piece mounted, and take it home via QR code. The experience is open to all, including beginners, from children to beginners, and the nearby original invite comparison with their own creation, making the encounter more personally connected to the artwork and memorable. And it naturally sparks dialogue as participants reflect on their shared engagement with the art. With limited time today, I could only share some case studies, but I hope they showed how museum worldwide are exploring new ways to make cultural property more personal and meaningful. And visitors seek more than information touching. They want to experience that invite participation, foster creativity, and offer sensory connection through technology. These experiences allow visitors to explain, take part, create, and connect with objects or materials in a tangible way. They often spark dialogue as participants reflect on shared impact on what they've experienced together. To make these means, the museum must define everything from thematic framing and device design to accessibility and take-home elements. Such considerations are key to the future of digital content planning, I believe. And at the National Museum, at the Tokyo National Museum, we are currently preparing the new content for release next year, shaped by this very principle. We'd be very delighted to welcome you experience it once it completes. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Takahashi. First, before opening the question, the time for the question, I would like first to really give an applause to the speakers. Definitely, the quality is really excellent for each of 6 of us. It's very interesting tackling the topic from a very different perspective. And yeah, I appreciate the question. Appreciate you very much. So now it's time for question. We will stop at 11:30 because we have a guided tour there. So yeah, we can go on with the question, with your questions.
So maybe not a question, but to just give one more example, which I think wasn't maybe clearly shown yet. I think that the digital also allows for museum professionals to bring new life to issues that have been long gone. So it was, like, for example, in the National Gallery of Finland, what they created was a metaverse where you could actually step inside the Expo 1900 Finnish Pavilion in Paris, which only existed for a limited time, but you could actually step in there and see how that, for the Finnish identity, very important exhibition was created, and because the paintings and sculptures that were inside of there still exist in the museum, but the space doesn't. So this means that with the digital, you can actually enter spaces, as we heard, but also like real spaces that can have meaning for cultural heritage or for people in a specific context. And my question would maybe do you have some similar examples from your museums?
Thank you. My name is Christian. I'm from Liverpool, from the northwestern fringe of Europe. First of all, great timekeeping, both the organisers and the speakers, which is always much appreciated. The question is really about, I'm interested in data. I'll jump in a little bit ahead because I know we're all struggling with making digitization work, but there are already a lot of data. GBIF got mentioned earlier. It's really about accessibility of data. How are we making our data? So we're starting out to digitize because we want to make our data more accessible. But then every museum literally has its own database, which is then in the context of you trying to find information. Sometimes you have to go through databases of museums before you find what you're actually looking for. So aggregators like GBIF are really important, but they're also quite rare. It's specialists, but not necessarily similar things in other areas. And I don't know if there are any, because I don't have any really, but it's just something that I'm thinking about a lot from the perspective of the people who then want to use the data, whether they be universities wanting to do research, whether they are communities who want to research, where in the world their collections might be distributed, objects from their culture. So it's that side of not just putting data out, but how do we get the data from the point of view of the user?
Another answer for you. Like we had Europeana, as you were familiar with Europeana. Europeana is a European project. The museums around Europe are invited to upload the digital information into one place. And then we wanted to get into some item, then let's say items of a client. You will have all the lines that are registered, let's say, Europe. The problem was that we found out that a lot of museums sometimes don't want to expose items that they have on the internet. They say, this one I don't know other people. From very different reasons. Like, for example, the original item. It's very special, so we don't want the whole to know that we have this special thing. Like, I don't know, the whole of the line. There was the thing I tried to experience. So that's, but there are projects that are trying to bring together information from museums. I'm familiar with Europeana because I'm from Europe, but I guess maybe there is other ones around. This is something to do.
Thank you. Yes, sorry to the people online. I am aware of European, but again, it's a, it's more like a regional thing. It's just European, and I'm, being, given that we're ICON, as a global organization, I think I'm asking for some global solutions, and I know this takes a lot of thought and a lot of resources, but, I think that's the point to aim for, essentially.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, we could start in innovation and then to create. But I want to raise another question about, I have a lot of thinking about digitization in natural museums. People now are getting very, very far away from nature. They are so occupied, probably the places they live, they live in towns and hardly know nature. They are very, very, very used to all kind of media, and the media is controlling our lives. So makes me think, do we want the children to go in the Natural History Museum and do the same, or do we want to bring them back to nature? So every time I hear talk about vegetation of natural history museums, I think, how do we keep the balance from not becoming too immersive, not becoming too digital? Maybe keep on the hands-on things, maybe, and also, the experience. He said the experience is should occupy all our senses, not only our vision, our smell, our taste, our touch. And when we are in a virtual world, it's only our vision. So I have a lot of thinking about this issue. And you can talk about it.
Hello, my name is Sophia from Greece. First of all, I would like to thank NOV for this conference, of course. I don't have the answers, so you maybe Google first perhaps. They have magnificent collections, so you can access it globally. So really questions. So thank you very much for that.
Yeah, well, it's just a remark on the former speech before. I think what is most important is authenticity in museums, and that digitalization should be an extra layer on top of the authentic objects, and that makes it possible to experience nature, so people can reconnect with nature. Because I think. Also do my presentation on that, so maybe it gives another insight.
Hello, my name is Roshan Fargati. I come from Iran. And my question is, how can digitalization lead the visitor to inner after the discovery? Meaning for materials or objects.
Hello, my name is Limpo, I'm from Zambia. Just to add on to the conversation that Doris brings, it's really important that we keep the balance in how we incorporate digitization. And I think one of the presentations from one of the presenters was presenting on the flying fish. I think brought out something like that where there was an immersive experience of the person being immersed into this virtual reality. But at the end of that exhibition, there was now the physical exhibition where now the people walk through and they can easily relate to what they were experiencing in the virtual reality. That way it was sort of striking a balance and keeping both worlds and interacting with virtual reality, but also keeping the authentic museum experience. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Yube. I'm from the city of Durham, which has given the name to the greatest mass extinction in the world. And I have a question regarding the Charlie speech, but probably others. Do you think that if we will be deeply involved in the emotion as process, the process of observation will be extinct? So because observing is something like looking at, but not being deeply involved, and it's not a part of learning and explaining what's happening.
Okay, thank you for your question and thank you for your comments. Actually, and also you talking about the authentic thing. When we are doing the VR immersion, how can I say that? It's not a film, but it's an environment. We have to co-work closely with our scientists to keep everything authentic because there is something, but because when we are creating a VR, there is something science. We are always talking about it's science fiction or science fact. So we have to discuss it because we have storyline, which is some kind of fiction, but we have objects inside. It should be science fact. So we are always talking about it to keep it a balance, like what did you say? And for your question, you mentioned that when can people observe objects inside the VR? Actually, it depends on the storyline or the purpose of this VR program. If we want, for example, we have a program for we are working with high school students, and we provide some material for them to observe. So we scan, not just scan, we photograph the bees or animals or insects, other insects, and then we put it in the forest. And the visitors they can, when they are putting on the VR, they can use the hand controller to point the insect in the wild, and the insect will become larger, and they can observe it closely. So it depends on the purpose of the VR program.
Hello, I'm Yuan Hao. I'm doing my PhD research in Japan. I first want to thank for our excellent speakers, and I want to have a comment on that about the using the technology. Maybe it could be just one of part of the experience when you go to the museum, because I have great experience using this VR technology, the touch screen, things like that, but with the environment of excellent audio and even the smells of the part of the area, bringing the smell as the natural history collection from the forest. So I can smell the flavor of some plants in the room. They're well designed, and at the same time, the technology is part of the experience. So I never gonna say as a single experience from my point of view. And have another question for the overview is I have some less satisfying experience in terms of using all these technologies because at very first minutes or 2 minutes using all these technologies, it's actually getting used to how to use it and learn the system. And then I go to another section and I spend 5 minutes figure out how to use it, and then I go to another museum. So I got to learn about to enjoy it, to be honest. So is there any, do you have any comments on that one?
For example, when we make the touchscreens, like for these museums, we will have a lot of touchscreens. So the user interface plays a very particular role for this. You have to use the same user interface, the same rules. The graphics can change a bit, but the rules of how you interact must be the same, so that we don't have to learn by in the research.
it has something because I'm a member of NATIS and a geologist, but I also have a background in science education, actually some research activity in science education. And we have to remind that technology itself, it's not enough, you know. And if you remember in history, I think it was at the 18th century, there was those first tools, you know, which we were able to project images. And at that time, we thought, yeah, we solved all the problems of science and education just because we were able to show pictures, you know? It's quite similar, in fact. So we have to balance the way we interact with things, but also, first of all, to think of embedded this content in a meaningful narrative. That's the most important point. That's a necessary condition for the system to work. Statement, but that's okay. We can have time for one or two questions.
Maybe just a remark on the what I've seen in my research. The best results come when different professional lines work together very early on. So what we are discussing here, I think, is linked to how technology and how digital tools can actually help what each museum professional line is trying to achieve. But you cannot achieve it on your own. And what we have seen is that in the new projects in the national museums in the Nordics, the main how they used to work is that now they have interdisciplinary teams which plan from the beginning and which plan together with the designers for the exhibitions, but it's not just about the exhibition. It goes down to the researchers, the collection managers, the conservators, like everybody needs to understand what we are aiming at. So this interdisciplinary teams seems to be like the key to a good digitalization projects.
Imagine that such an example, because we create a game using tablet technology, but also the items. And we develop through a kind of it's related to research program. And it was done as a methodology named design-based research. That is an iterative project involving scientists, research and science education, moderators, and also developers, all together in an iterative way. We develop the game, we start and then test it, and then develop a second part, and we got the next country, and now so as an example.
Yeah, hello, my name is Mark Beach, I'm from Natural History Museum at Adelaide. Just from down the road. Very interesting talks, thank you, this morning. I think it's all a question of balance, and you mentioned authenticity. For me, what's important is we are developing a new museum. We open actually next Saturday, the 22nd November. I hope some of you are still here in the Emirates to have a chance to see yes, it can argue to come back. But it's about balance. Authenticity is really important. We have a balance in our museum of authentic specimens, a chance for people to touch real specimens. This is important, not just everything behind glass and everything as immersive, everything as touch screens. We have AR, VR, we have immersive theatre, we have a paleo lab where people can actually touch bottles, and we have education centre, again, where you can handle things. It's getting the balance, I feel. The problem is there are so many companies now touting business, offering, we provide you with AR, VR, VX, whatever, and they're just after money, of course. You know, they're not necessarily with the right educational mindset, not using the right technical expertise. But it's just about balance. One of the struggles we're having is that we've started from the very beginning using data things and just scanning everything. So we have huge data files, and it's really a problem managing 3D digital files, and we're using latest technology, of course, but it's already a problem. And we started from zero in 5 years we've created Natural History Museum and collections, but it's a huge problem managing the digital 3D scan data in an accessible way to make it public. So that's one of our challenges for the future.
Thank you so much. We are told we just sad and the plan is we have the German film and the Swiss film. So we're giving this time, so no chance to other time. But now we have time all together for visit and we can go on with the animal for the lunch.
We have online participants.